Where are we? I don't know, Merry Jig. We've ascended, we've just hit the dirt on the new Himalayan. Pretty rough to start with, but that's how I like it. We did a water crossing, some big whoops, we got some big air. You can actually wheelie these things now, so, I mean, that's a big upgrade. Lots to digest. Glad we got 2 days on the dirt to follow. Rock and roll. Oh, hello there. It's your boy Spencer on the new Royal Enfield Himalayan. A massively improved motorcycle for 2024. New everything. It's lighter, it's narrower. It makes significantly more grunt thanks to a new liquid cooled engine. We've got a ride-by-wire throttle and a TFT dash for the first time ever on a Royal Enfield. Woo. Increased travel, all new styling, new everything, don't you get it? Woo. We're taking one for some hard off-road riding because this bike claims to be able to do hard off-road. The brakes are massively improved. Probably my biggest complaint about the outgoing bike was the brakes. We've now got a 320mm front disc fibre caliper, which is of course a Brembo subsidiary. That has transformed this platform, having brakes you can rely on. Probably can't tell, but that was quite downhill. That was quite a steep descent, and on the old bike I would have been far more careful. This shower front end is better than it deserves to be, and all in all I'm quite happy with how this bike is behaving on the dirt. Got some big rocks here, it's quite steep. Pick a line, tractor up, you know. 29 kilowatts, 40 newton meters. It's still not heaps, but it's a lot more than the previous bike. So all in all, early days, but I'm having a grand old time riding this thing. Weighs 196 kilograms. Wet. And so it doesn't really feel like a light motorcycle. And it's quite vibey and agricultural at highway speeds. With all that said, this bike costs $8,990 right away. And look, I don't know, there are not many places where you can get that kind of value. What do we think, Cam, for the camera? Camera Donald. Beautiful little track. Did you find this out, Cam? Is this your work, this route?
I must say this bit isn't. The hardship we're going to get to later is.
Oh, rock and roll. We're in the Victorian high country, more specifically Craig's Hut, made famous by the man from Snowy River. And I've got Mark Wells, Royal Enfield's very own head of product strategy and industrial design.
That's close enough, yep.
Oh,
yep, that's
sorry.
close enough.
We've had the pleasure of riding in Los Angeles recently, Bangkok, Jay Salma. But I hear this is your first time riding in Australia.
This is my first visit to Australia, full stop, and I'm loving
fair
it.
income.
It's yeah, it's an awesome place.
The man of the hour, or the bike of the hour rather, the new Himalayan. Look, this is clearly an all-new motorcycle, so we'd be standing here all day if we talked about everything, but what do you reckon are the most important new changes that makes this a better bike? Because it clearly is.
Absolutely. So I think that the number one thing's brand new engine, so clean sheet of paper, ground up engine, over the old bike with double power, double torque. Makes a huge difference. Still got the kind of the same DNA, it's still got that sort of tractability, that easiness to ride. Again, all new chassis. So we've started from a clean sheet of paper, working with the engine and the chassis together, really working on the package, getting everything as compact and tight as possible in the central section, so it's nice and narrow, and the stood up riding nerves are really good. And then I think the standout thing is the suspension. I think the suspension on this bike is just so
Shower
good.
setup, right?
Shower, yeah, so they're 43mm, separate function, upside down forks at the front, shower RSU at the back, and yeah, just transform the bike. You know, it's such an easy bike to ride. I'm not a great off-road rider, but you know, I'm keeping up, and it's such an easy bike to ride off road.
It certainly is. And one thing that struck me is, even though so much is new, it's still sort of, you know, you're on a Himalayan.
Absolutely, yeah. We tried really hard to keep that DNA, so keep the good things from the Hemi. So the Hemi was always really good from a stood up riding ergs position, kind of just hands dropping naturally to the right positioning. It always had a really nice tractability to the motor that made it easy to ride, and we've tried to maintain as much of that characteristic as we can.
Yeah, certainly.
So I mean, I'm an industrial designer, although actually I didn't do any design on this. I just oversaw it and managed it and said, yeah, I like that, or we don't like that, let's do it like that. But our lead designer on this was a guy called Steve Everett, and we spent a lot of time really looking at the how the bike was going to be used, talking to consumers, understanding where they wanted to come from, and then starting to sort of package out.
So I suspect this thing's going to be a whole lot better off-road.
Yes, it is. It's better, but familiar. So all the things the old bike were good at, this bike is equally as good at. But we've got more suspension travel, we've got more ground clearance, 230mm ground clearance now, that's with a centre stand. We've got more torque, more power. So it's just like the bike was previously, but just up a level, really.
Well, we've got Cam Donald leading the ride, and he's known to kind of understate some of the tracks he takes us down. So I think we are going to really put some of your theories to the test. But let's get into it, huh?
Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks. So much fun. Bit of a rocky descent. I have to say, I'm so pleased they improved these brakes. Look, there's still nothing to scream atop mountains about, but comparatively it's just made the world of difference. And really, like, where it comes mostly into effect is just things like this. You can grab a bit of front brakes, rocky downhill, and you're going to slow down. Of course, I've got the rear ABS switched off. One thing that's new for this Himalayan is a ride-by-wire throttle, which means we have power modes. Basically, well, they call it performance and eco. I mean, I don't know why you'd ever put it on eco unless you were running out of fuel, because it just saps a lot of the power out of it, and it's not, I don't think anyone's going to have any trouble managing this power plant. But also, on that note, I've been very, very pleased with how much range you can get out of this thing. It's a 17-litre fuel tank, and Royal Enfield says 450 kilometres plus. Now, I think if you're sort of riding hard, I think you'd be looking at more like 350 to 400, but that's still really good. So it's a tremendously efficient thing. I'm sure that's in part due to the new liquid cooled motor, which is better on emissions and fuel efficiency. And although it sort of behaves in the same way as the old engine, it's much smoother and just much beefier. I mean, put it this way, if you drop the clutch in first gear, you can do a wheelie. I mean, you'd never dream of doing a wheelie on the old Himalayan. I know it's a bit of a redneck barometer, but you know what I mean. Big jump. And yeah, that front end shower stuff, giving me plenty of confidence to jump the thing, and it's not going to bottom out, you know. It's good. Like, I hope I'm not coming off as too effusive, because at the end of the day, this is a sub $10,000 motorcycle. It's got a lot more features than its predecessor, but in the world of adventure bikes, where basically the sky's the limit, given you've got the bank account to handle it, it's still a basic motorcycle. It's on the more primitive end of the adventure bike segment. But this fills the gap to me that was left by motorcycles like the mighty Suzuki DR650. Those sort of... I want to use the word tractor in a positive manner, but it won't sound like it. But these single cylinder bikes that'll chug up a hill all day, they're not working too hard. Yeah, they're a bit heavier than some of the sportier things. But you take your time and you can get up a lot of stuff, and you're not spending a lot of money. There's not too much that can go wrong because they are quite simple motorcycles. Oop. Someone's gone in for the hug there. If you don't mind me, I might just focus because they're dying like flies, baby. This is pretty tricky, I have to say. They're dying like flies. Whoa! Nearly made it the highest. Let's go, baby. Come on. Come on. Come on. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Shame about the view. Woo! Hey! You alright? Yeah. Well, slow speed crash. Let me give you a hand. Let me give you a hand. Wait, I'll help. I'll help. That was a slow motion crash. Oh, my ass hung out, mate. Are you alright? Yeah. That was so slow, wasn't it? That was so slow.
Raise your hand if you're ready and willing. If you know it's time. Time for a girl on time. Time for a girl on time.
I've arisen fairly dusty this morning. It's day 3 on the Royal Enfield Himalayan. We did a lot yesterday, a lot more than I expected. Man. You know when motorcycle journos say put it through its paces? It's such a cliche, but I think it's fitting in this circumstance. So I'm happy to be having a nice easy ride up Mount Buller, see what this thing's like on the road, get the wind in the hair. Should be good, I'll bring you along. It's day 3 of our time with the Royal Enfield Himalayan, and we've just come thumping up this beautiful flowing twisty bit of bitumen at Mount Buller. It's a snow town, but we're in the hot season, so the road was just lovely. And what it did is it affirmed my suspicion that these tyres are a massive, massive improvement. Bit of background on that. India basically banned the importation of tyres, and so, or at least restricted them heavily. And so Royal Enfield had to continue using Indian-made tyres. And previously, this brand of tyre on the previous Himalayan, I thought it was one of the weaker points of the bike. They have proven fantastic, both on the road and off the road. And that's down to the fact that they were designed specifically for this bike. In fact, in just about every way, this is an improved motorcycle. That engine is miles above of the previous bike's motor. It's faster, but it's also smoother. It's also mated to a 6-speed gearbox now that works really quite effortlessly. The chassis is better. It handles better on the road and off the road, as I say. It's liquid cooled, ride-by-wire throttle, TFT screen. Look, these aren't crazy space age features, but it elevates Royal Enfield again a little bit up the ladder. We have to contextualize this stuff, you know. It's an entry-level motorcycle. It's a sub $10,000 motorcycle. And so you cannot expect the refinement of some of the more premium bikes in the adventure bike class. If you go in looking for that, you're going to be disappointed. But what it certainly proves, and what we've certainly proven over the last couple of days, is there isn't much you cannot do on this bike. We took it up things it had no right getting up. We couldn't find a hill we couldn't get up. A massive improvement for Royal Enfield here, and one you must consider if you're in the market for a lightweight adventure bike. This should not go without a look, because it has been an absolute blast to ride. I'll leave you with it. Let me know what you think.